my last video, I had finally completed my new aquascape for my big old 220-gallon reef tank, which I unfortunately had to rebuild after my previous scape was destroyed in my recent tank move. And it has now been a long time later, and I still haven't placed that bad boy in the tank yet. And no, this isn't just due to pure laziness, at least not completely. There was a series of unfortunate events that occurred right after I finished my aquascape that created this delay, which I will get into. But in this video, we're going to finally place the new aquascape in the tank. You have no idea how excited I am for this. If you're new to this channel, hello, howdy, hi, my name is Stephanie, and I make silly videos about my journey in the reef tank keeping hobby. So if you are also silly and like the reef tanks, make sure to smash that subscribe right now. After an intense month-long brutal aquascaping journey, I finally finished my 2-structure bonsai-esque looking magnum opus. Despite all of the odds and all of the frustration, I actually managed to create something I really love. Way better than the previous aquascape, if you ask me honestly. And it was now time to soak this sexy thing in a tub of RODI water for a week, just to make sure that no nasties and concrete residue would get introduced into my tank. I'm only really doing this because I have fishies and coral in my tank. When I started my 220-gallon up, I just did, a thorough rinse and just dropped the scape in. But because I already have creatures in this thing, it's a bit too much of a risk, So I went to my local Home Depot and I found the biggest, baddest tub I could find. After barely managing to load it into my car, I made it home and it was time to finally place the aquascape to soak and be one step closer to actually having my tank look decent. I had a lot of confidence in my structures, so this was all supposed to go smoothly. Well, y'all, that confidence was foolish. It was just straight foolish. Ah! It broke. The left structure was in fact not structurally sound. It was not structurally sound. It broke to sad little pieces, and only the top arch ledge thing remained intact. Pretty much due to me not learning my lesson again and using rock on the base that was way too thin to hold up the weight of that arch. So I set off to rebuild the structure again from scratch, and the sheer anger I had at this point, and after a lot of cursing and rebuilding and cursing some more, it turned out like this. I used much thicker rock on the base this time around and reinforced the back of the aquascape with a ton of eMarco 400 cement, beef that scape up. I kind of like this smaller structure 2.0 though more because it has a lot more room for corals here at the bottom, this extended part here, and more room for corals is exactly what I need right now. So I held my breath and I attempted to move the structures into the bin. It held. It held well, except for this tiny little ledge portion that cleanly snapped off the right structure, but only because it couldn't physically fit the width of the tub, but whatever, no biggie, easy fix. So then I poured in my RODI water, added a little power head for some circulation, and left it to sit for a few weeks now. Longer than necessary completely, but that's where my laziness kicked in, Meanwhile, the 220-gallon, the tank is in a rough state indeed. I've still been dosing, I've still been testing my water parameters, cleaning out the skimmer cup and the filter socks, yada yada. But that's pretty much been the extent of my upkeep, as you can clearly see. The glass is absolutely nasty. There's so much coralline growing on it now, I honestly don't even know how to begin tackling this mess. And I've also noticed a bit of bubble algae popping up, but nothing major. The aptasia though, that's become major problem. It's completely out of control. These problems you know, they have easy fixes on the scale of things, but they're still really annoying problems to have. But now that my laziness streak is over, it's time to get the tank back into shape. So excited about it. You know, I'm not sure if I'm the only person in the hobby who acts this way, but my love for the hobby comes and goes, you know, ebbs and flows. I mean, my love never completely goes away, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I just need to take a mental break from everything ever so often, where I go into this, you know, autopilot mode doing my maintenance routine, and I don't really think about my tank or look at my tank pretty much at all. And when this little mental hiatus finishes, though, I always come back stronger and crazy passionate. All I think about and talk about is reef tanks. And I think this whole obsession to autopilot to obsession cycle is the only way that I've actually managed to stick out this hobby for so long. I don't know, is that weird? Am I weird? Probably. But y'all, the time has come and I'm ready to put in my aquascape and place my corals. But I'm a little bit concerned. I have my concerns, yes, because during this whole rebuilding my aquascape, then rebuilding my aquascape, and that lazy hiatus time period, I don't know what happened, but my corals grew. I mean, really, they just popped off overnight. Just look at the bubble monster. I mean, if I considered him a monster before, I mean, now he's truly, I don't know, a way bigger monster. And the hammers and the rock flowers, I mean, we're talking a lot of growth here. I'm pretty sure it can be attributed to my tank like finally maturing and becoming more stable now that it's been set up for like what? Close to 2 years now? I mean, geez, time flies, but I think my tank is entering those golden years after the wild, bumpy, ugly stage, and hence, you know, some fast-growing corals. Now, in every other circumstance, I would be over the moon, but I unfortunately didn't really take into account my new coral sizes when building my aquascape. One good thing that I have going on with my scape, though, is that I made sure it has a ton of negative space. You know, people always think, you know, negative space, minimalistic style, such a bad thing. But really, if you have plenty of media in your sump and you take your time with adding corals, it's actually really fantastic. Because, you know, corals grow, you know, and corals need more room to grow than you'd think. I mean, I really could go on a long rant about this, but I'll save you from that this time. Anyway, moving the aquascape into the tank. I did a little water change just to help make this process a little bit easier. Put some of the larger corals into this cooler here so I could have more room to actually put the aquascape down. Move the sand to make space for the base of it, and had David here do the heavy lifting. Going back in with that extra E Marco cement really did the trick though, because the scape was pretty easy to place inside. A few little pieces fell off, but with a lot of super glue and some piping to hold it in place, the aquascape came together. Just like the first time I added a scape to this tank, it looks really empty, but just wait until next week when I place these corals, y'all, because it will not look empty at all. It's going to look sick, and I am so excited, and I really like this scape a lot, and this is gonna be a good time from here. I'm excited.